Namaskar, I am Dr. Aarti Chaudhary, Assistant Professor in the Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology at Vasant Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Banaras Hindu University. I welcome you once again in this 12-week course titled History of Science and Technology in Ancient India from Harappan Civilization to 7th century CE. Today we are going to discuss module 11 and lecture 5. The title of module 11 is A Brief Survey of Agricultural Practices and Knowledge of Biodiversity in Ancient India, and the title of lecture 5 is Medieval India Agriculture, a Legacy of Continuity. At first, the learning objectives of this topic. The first learning objective is to understand the agricultural practices and techniques used during this period, to analyze the role of agriculture in the socio-economic structure of the society, and to evaluate the continuity and changes in agricultural practices from ancient to medieval times. So, in this particular lecture we are going to discuss these sub points from ancient to medieval agriculture, a few important crops in medieval India, irrigation system, seed sowing machine, animal husbandry and regional text on agriculture. Agriculture has been the foundational pillar of Indian civilization from the agrarian references in the Rigveda to the structured land management practices of the Mauryan and Gupta period. The Indian subcontinent developed a deeply rooted agricultural tradition. These early systems laid the groundwork for the medieval period, where continuity in agricultural practices remained a defining feature despite political and cultural transformations. The medieval period in Indian history, roughly spanning the 8th to 18th century CE, witnessed the persistence of traditional farming methods, crop patterns and irrigation techniques inherited from earlier times. At the same time, it introduced innovations driven by changing political regime, including the rise of regional powers, the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire. These developments brought refinement in land revenue administration, expansion of canal based irrigation and the introduction of new crops through trade and conquest. The continuity of agricultural practices from ancient to medieval India in this time underscore the enduring nature of rural India, rural life in India, where long standing traditions coexisted with gradual transformation introduced by political shift, technological advances and environmental needs. From ancient to medieval, agricultural practices in the medieval period largely resembled those of early India with some significant changes. These changes include the introduction of new crops, trees and horticulture plants bought by foreign traders. Rulers introduced new land tenure system during this period, alternating agricultural practices. The geographic distribution of major food crops remained largely consistent with what we see today. Efforts to improve irrigation include the construction of long canals, especially in the northwestern part of India, whereas numerous tanks, both large and small, were created with a notable concentration in South India. Cotton cultivation saw notable growth and sugarcane became more widespread during the Mughal era. Coffee cultivation began on the Western Ghat in the 17th century though the quality of the coffee seeds at the time was not very good. Western Kashmir was famous for its saffron and fruits, which were highly valued both locally and for trade during this period. The Pandya kingdom was known for its cultivation of ginger and cinnamon, which were significant export and played a key role in the region's economy. Malabar was recognized for its cardamom, a valuable spice that contributed to the region's prominence in the spice trade. The Malay Hills, modern day Otakkamund, were notable for their production of fragrant sandalwoods, which was prized for its aromatic qualities and used in perfumes, incense and wood carvings. In particular, Kerala was a major supplier of coconut and their byproducts, which along with sea salt helped finance the import of goods like cloth, metal and even grains. Coconut fibers were used to make ropes, which were essential for tying ship together and also served as cables. The coconut kernel was used both in sweet treats and as a source of oil, which was utilized for lighting lamp and as hair oil. Other products included charcoal from the shell, while the trunk of the coconut tree was used in building shelters, house and fishing boats. The cashew nut, originally from South America, became one of the most economically valued crop introduced during this period and countries to be a major cash crop even today. Potatoes, guava and custard apples were first brought to India by the Portuguese in the early 16th century. While initially planted in Goa, these crops eventually thrived more successfully in other parts of the country. Around 1550 CE, the Jesuit missionaries in Goa introduced the technique of mango grafting, which dramatically improved the quality and variety of mangoes in India, turning it into a profitable venture for horticulturists. Tobacco and chilies, capsicum also made their way into Indian agriculture during the later part of the 16th century and soon became widely cultivated and integrated into Indian food habits and farming practice. Now, a few important crops in the medieval India. Wheat. During the Delhi Sultanate period, Amir Khusro noted that wheat, barley, pulses, millet, peas, rice, oilseeds, sugarcane and cotton were the main crops. And in the ancient time, these crops are also very much prominent. We already studied about the Vedic text about the Kautila Arthashastra, and the importance of rice, wheat, barley, millet is all time mentioned in every text. So, we can understand the continuity of that particular agricultural practices until the medieval period. Firoz Shah Tughlaq implementation of canal irrigation near Hisar and Firozabad significantly enhanced the cultivation of wheat, sugarcane, sesame and pulses in these regions. Delhi imported wheat, rice and sugarcane from Manikpur near Allahabad due to the superior quality of crops grown in that region. In the Mughal era, particularly during Akbar's reign, wheat triticum species was widely cultivated across northern, central, western and eastern India. Now, the explanation regarding rice. During Akbar's rule in the Mughal era, rice Oryza sativa was widely cultivated across India with several distinct varieties being grown in different regions. In regions like Agra, Allahabad and Awadh, three key types of rice were commonly produced: dark colored rice, Persian Shali Muskin, Munj rice believed to be today's basmati variety, especially cultivated in Dehradun and nearby areas, and a standard variety of common rice that was grown throughout the empire. The Aine Akbari describe a unique rice variety from Bengal with exceptional traits. It was highly productive with grains from different type filling a large vase when collected, capable of being sown and harvested 3 times a year on the same land with minimal crop damage. Agriculturalists classified rice variety using selection methods to suit diverse climates and soil. The centuries of rice cultivation contributed to India's advanced agricultural knowledge in selecting varieties and adapting them to different environmental conditions. Now, barley. Barley, jagu or jaw, Hordeum vulgare, was primarily grown in areas where wheat was cultivated, though it was absent in Bengal and Assam. The cultivation of barley typically accounted for about 1/5 of the total agricultural land, with the ratio of wheat and barley cultivation being approximately 3:1. Now, information regarding the millet. Millets, small grain cereals, were predominantly grown in the arid region of India. During Akbar rule, a tax was levied on several varieties of millets such as jowar, sorghum, sanva, echinocola, kodu, paspalam and ragi, finger millet, etc. These small cereals were primarily cultivated either as food for the poorer section or society, or as fodder for livestock, with the latter being more likely due to the extensive pasture lands mentioned in historical accounts. It is also notable that the area under bajra, pearl millet, cultivation during Akbar's time was much smaller compared to the present day extent of its cultivation. So, we are seeing here the different species of wheat, different species of millet is mentioned in the text, and they are very special in order to understand the proper growth of a particular cereal in the particular time period. The several species just showing the evidence of the flourished agricultural practices at that contemporary time period. Now, information about pulses. Various leguminous seeds, commonly referred to as pulse, were grown for their vegetable protein content during Akbar's reign, and tax was collected on their production. Some of these pulses indicated mash, mung, Physiolus aureus roxb. Second is Mas, Siyah, Urd, Physiolus mungo roxb. Moth, Meth, Kalai, Khiri, Physiolus aconitifilius jack. Lobia, Lobia, Copia, Vign sinensis L. savi X. husk. Cult, Kulthi, horsegram, Dolichos biflorus L. Adas, Masur lentil, Lens culinaris medic. Nakhud, Chana, Gram, chickpea, Caesar eritinum L. Mashang, Matar, garden pea, Pisum sativum L. var. arvenense, and Khesari, Kesari, Graspi, Lathyrus sativus L. So, on the basis of different kinds of this information, we can understand at that contemporary time period different kinds of pulses were cultivated by the contemporary people, and on the basis of these information we can trace the agricultural variety of pulses at the contemporary time period in the ancient time. Now, the information regarding oil seeds. During Akbar reign, several crops were cultivated for their oil bearing seeds with key varieties including linseed, safflower and sesame. Mustard and torea were also mentioned. Torea refers to Brassica campestris var torea, while mustard encompasses various species and varieties such as B. campestris, L. var dichotoma, kali sarso, B. campestris, L. var sarso, pili sarso, yellow sarso, B. hirta, moench, safed sarso, सफ़ेद राई, बी जंसिया, एल करजन और क्रॉस राई, बी नेपस एल कैल्सी सरन and B. nigra कोच काली राई. Due to lack of scientific plant classification at the time, all oil yielding mustard varieties were likely grouped together for taxation purpose. Crash crops, sugarcane and cotton. Sugarcane, Scachurum officinarum, was widely cultivated across India, with Bengal being particularly noted for its high quality and abundant production. Cotton, Gossypium arboreum, was grown in various regions including North India, though it was less widespread than sugarcane. Surprisingly, Bengal also produced cotton, a crop less commonly associated with the region today. Possibly due to transportation challenges, cotton production was essential for the muslin clothes industry in Bengal during this period. Indigo and other dye crops. Indigo, Indigofera tincotoria, became an important cash crop during the later part of the Muslim period, both for domestic use and for export. The best quality indigo came from the Bayana region near Agra, while other regions like the Doab, Khurj and Koli produced lower quality indigo. Indigo from the south was considered of medium quality. Cultivation of indigo was widespread from Bengal to Khandesh. Its use, however, led to soil fertility issue, which Water later understood in terms of nitrogen fixation, though this knowledge was not available at the time. Morinda tincotoria was another dyeing yielding plant used for producing a red dye, but its cultivation ceased with the rise of synthetic dyes. Henna, Lawsonia inermis, was widely cultivated and taxed, whereas Piper betel L, betel leaves, commonly chewed with areca nut, areca cashew, was also taxed during Akbar reign. So, on the basis of this explanation, we also understand the people of ancient India in the contemporary period up to the medieval period. They were engaged in the different kinds of agricultural practices, horticulture practices, as well as the other practices like the production of indigo and henna, which is not directly used in the food item, but they were used to dye clothes or some other thing, they were used to designing on hand or coloring some another things. So, this kind of specific activity in the society was also dependent on such type of vegetation. So, the proper exploration of uh, exploration of the text in this period, we can understand the diverse and multi-dimensional use of this kind of vegetation in the contemporary period. Now, the irrigation system. Irrigation is always very important for the flourished agricultural system. Irrigation system continuity from ancient to medieval time. In ancient practices, in ancient India, wells, tanks and canal were already established as primary sources of irrigation. These practices continued and were enhanced during the medieval period. Medieval advances. During Akbar's reign, well, tanks and canals continued to be central to agricultural irrigation. The use of devices such as the Persian wheel, arhat, and the leather bucket, charas, exemplified the continuation and refinement of water lifting technique. Additionally, in the southern region, the construction of large tank by Chola rulers such as Great Anicut and Poruma Milla tank demonstrated the expansion of irrigation infrastructure. Water management, coastal adaptation and agricultural continuity. In ancient coastal practices, ancient agricultural society, particularly in coastal region, developed methods to regulate water flow such as creating dikes to prevent saltwater intrusion. This knowledge persisted into medieval times. Medieval innovations. By the time of the Mughal Empire, advanced methods like seasonal clay dikes and floodgates were operational, reflecting a long standing understanding of water management. The use of salt, fish and plant acids as fertilizer also a practice that carried over from earlier times, showing an ongoing relationship with local resources. Canal construction, expansion and continuity. Ancient waterways. Ancient Indian civilization had already developed complex water system including canals to support agriculture. And medieval enhancement, the construction of the major canal such as Shah Jahan's Nahar-e-Bisti and the eastern Yamuna canal during the Mughal era demonstrated the continuity of canal building practices. These medieval projects not only continue ancient tradition, but also expanded them, catering to the needs of growing urban center like Shahjahanabad and facilitating agricultural productivity in new region. Now, seed sowing machine. B. A. Keene, who served as the doctor of the Imperial Agricultural Research Institute at Pusa during 1930-31, emphasized that India has historically been a homeland of seed sowing machinery. His observation highlights a significant continuity in agricultural practices, suggesting that innovation in agricultural tools were from indigenous development sustained over centuries. Keene believed that the practice of seed drilling, for instance sowing seeds in straight rows using a mechanical device, was already being used in India by the 18th century and possibly much earlier. This suggests a long tradition of mechanical precision in Indian agriculture. Dr. Anderson of Fort St. George, Madras observed that this kind of device had been used since ancient time. This apparatus consisted of a wooden bowl with 3 or 4 tubular outlets that deposited seeds behind the coulters. The bowl was refilled by hand continuously. Since this design has remained unchanged over the year and is still in use today. It is logical to conclude that this was not a newly invented device by the end of the 18th century. Animal husbandry. In medieval India, cattle breeding evolved into a recognized profession, continuing the earlier Indian tradition of valuing in and maintaining livestock. Historical records such as the Indian gazetteers mention specific herdsmen known for their expertise in cattle rear, suggesting a long standing cultural knowledge of animal husbandry. However, a noticeable decline in cattle quality over time indicates a disruption of this continuity. This deterioration is often linked to the social and political turmoil of medieval India, marked by repeated foreign invasion and internal strife, which pushed agricultural and veterinary priorities to the margin. Contributing further to the decline were the shrinking of traditional grazing lands and the increasing poverty and illiteracy among farmers. These factors weakened the system that had once supported robust cattle rearing traditions, illustrating a shift from the earlier flourishing practices to a period of stagnation and decline. Now, revenue system in medieval period in medieval India. During Sher Shah reign, a systematic method of land revenue collection was instituted, wherein land in each pargana was measured after every harvest and taxes were levied based on the actual measurement. These show a continuation of early Indian tradition of land assessment and state oversight in agricultural production. The protection of hard working farmers' crops from harm by soldiers further indicates a state interest in supporting agrarian productivity. Under Akbar, building upon these earlier practices, land revenue administration underwent significant reforms that reflected both continuity and refinement. Several burdensome taxes, including supplementary levies previously imposed even by Hindu kings, were abolished. This point to an evolution from earlier system towards a more centralized and rationalized taxation model. In keeping with ancient Indian tradition of soil classification, as mentioned in texts like Arthashastra, Akbar's administration classified land based on its fertility and crop yielding capacity. Revenue was typically collected as one third of the average produce, and while taxes were fixed in monetary terms, the flexibility to pay in kind was allowed, preserving the traditional practice of accommodating farmers' condition. Now, Bengali text on agriculture. The regional text on agriculture, what are their explanation as by the different example we can see here. Apart from Sanskrit, there exists a vast body of agricultural literature in other Indian language as well. Among these, the information available in Bengali and Hindi is particularly noteworthy. In Bengali literature, a famous text called Dakra deals with agricultural astrology and medicine. This work shows clear influence of Buddhist tantric tradition. A copy of this text was recovered from Nepal by Mahamahopadhyay Harprasad Shastri. It is believed to have been composed in 10th century and appears to reflect the ideas of the Charvak school of philosophy. Among purely agricultural texts, the Kera Vachan holds a special place along with another widely circulated work titled Kannara Vachan. Due to its deep popularity among the masses, the text has undergone many changes over time. Kannara Vachan is also believed to date back to the 10th century. Another notable Bengali text is Sunya Purana, composed by Ramai Pandit in the 11th century. In this work, Lord Shiva is portrayed as a farmer. One verse states that Shiva is urged to do farming. O Lord, why do you not plough the land? Begging gives you rice only occasionally. Choose a path, choose a patch of marshy land for cultivation. If marshland is not available, irrigate the dry land thoroughly. When you finally get rice, you will be joyful after eating. How long will you go on without food? Why don't you grow cotton? How long will you keep wearing tiger skin? You smear ashes on your body. Why not cultivate mustard and sesame and apply oil instead? Grow plenty of leaf greens and vegetables, and yes, don't forget bananas, essential for religious offerings. In this poetic manner, the text indirectly stress practical agricultural knowledge such as the need for marshy land to grow rice, the importance of cultivating cotton, oilseed like sesame and mustard, and also vegetables and bananas for food and rituals use. So, on the basis of this poetic explanation, we can understand not only the agricultural or horticultural production was the carefully take care by the ancient people, as well as the process, the agricultural process and the whole surrounding process regarding the explanation of natural vegetation also got position in the literature, and the people wrote their own poem, their own text, their own explanation in particular way of related to the agricultural practices or other thing. So, it is just an indication on the basis of that writing they want to preserve their knowledge for the future generation, as well as they want to protect it, they want to just recover, they want to just store everything in the literary way. So, the people can aware most of the time by the written records. A later text from the 18th century, the Shivayana, written by Rameshwar, also continue this theme. Here Lord Shiva is shown farming with the help of his servant Bhim. In the 18th century Bengali poem Shivayana, composed by Rameshwar, Lord Shiva is portrayed engaging in farming assisted by his servant Bhim. The depiction of Shiva as a farmer reflects a unique literary trait of Bengali poetry, where divine figures are used to convey practical agricultural theme. Shiva instructs his plowman Bhim, level the field thoroughly within 4 dands of time. This indicates that rice was being cultivated in prepared seed beds. Shiva himself took up a khurpa, a hand hoe, and began the task of weeding with diligence. He carefully removed various grasses like Durvadal, Syama, Trisira and Kesura, ensuring the field remained clean. So, on the basis of these all explanation, we can say the legacy of medieval Indian agriculture is deeply rooted in the agricultural practices of ancient India, which continued to influence and shape the agrarian landscape throughout the medieval period. Ancient Indian agricultural system, including advanced irrigation techniques, crop rotation and the cultivation of a wide range of crops, formed the backbone of rural life and sustained the economic during medieval times. Even as political and social change swept across the subcontinent, the fundamental principles of ancient agriculture such as sustainable land management and the use of organic fertilizers persisted and adapted to new conditions. This continuity reflects the depth of agricultural knowledge in ancient India, which was passed down through generations and remained central to the socio-economic fabric of medieval India, demonstrating the resilience and enduring relevance for of these ancient agricultural practices. So, if you want to enhance your knowledge regarding this particular topic, if you want to read something more in this particular topic, you can prefer this reference present on the slide, and thank you very much for your patient listening. Namaskar.